So thank you all for coming. First thing we're going to do is we come around to all the different schools so that we as board members can understand a little bit what's going on. We have our principals do their school improvement plans and that things, but we don't get tours very often. So we're going to go on our tour. We're going to go on a little walkabout. So if you would like to join me when we come back, we will start the official meeting. Okay.
Got what, 10 minutes?
So whatever you take.
10 minutes. If you want to stay,
Yes, if you would like to sit here, you may, but
Take your coat.
Yeah.
Outside.
we will be right back.
I'm in a bad habit. I've been there. We're just gonna take a quick tour. I don't.
If everybody would join me, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome, everybody. One of our board members, Rebecca Fouts, is working tonight, so she's excused. First thing we're going to do, and we're going to switch this around next time, we're going to do it after our superintendent's report, but tonight we're going to do the items from the floor. So if you haven't signed in, if you're in it, let her know really quick, but otherwise we'll go ahead and start. Mr. Ware. Start with me. We can go second. You want to go after? Right. Megan Ware. Megan, sorry.
For the record, my name is Megan Ware. To the members of the Deer Park School Board, I'm speaking to you today as a parent of a female student at Deer Park High School who has participated in sports, as an educator for the Deer Park School District, and as a community member concerned with the examples we set for our children. I believe my longtime involvement in school board meetings proves my passion in helping to make our schools the best that they can be for our students. My request is simple. Please put in writing a resolution to stand against the WIAA rules that allow students to play for the team, quote, that is consistent with their gender identity, and unify with other Washington state schools that are seeking to amend the WIAA rules in regard to gender identity participation in school athletics. Mr. Keller, you have spoken many times about this subject being the mountain you would die on as the parent of girls. Mr. Phillips is the legislative lead for the school board. I ask that you put this as a priority in your legislative efforts. And board members, as the majority of you are parents of girls, I urge you also to put this as a priority. At this time, several schools across Washington state have already joined this fight. Meade School District most recently passed a resolution on October 21st, 2024. On July 24th, 2024, Colville School District passed a similar resolution. I believe it is past time for Deer Park School District to join with the 13 or more other schools that have expressed a desire to see the rule changed. As reported by Elena Perry in an October 21st, 2024 article in the Spokesman Review, quote, for a WIAA amendment to pass, 60% of the association's membership must vote in support of the amendment. There are 53 school administrators representing the association's 9 districts included in the membership. Dr. Allman, I urge you to be a part of the 60% that would make this amendment happen. Deer Park School Board, I urge you to support Dr. Allman in this. It saddens me that our school district is not at the forefront of this issue. It saddens me that so much effort into passing Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972 has now been diminished by biological males competing in female sports. It angers me that my daughter and any female athlete in our state could be surpassed by a biological male simply because they say they are female. The Deer Park School District has proven time and again to be largely conservative, and as elected members of this district, I urge you to stand with the majority of your constituents against this WIAA rule. I have put together a packet for each of you, which includes a copy of my request, the resolution recently passed by Meade School District, and the proposed amendment to the WIAA from Eastmont School District, which included signatures from several other Washington state schools, the article from the Spokesman Review, and an article from the Statesman Examiner regarding Colville School District. Thank you for your time and consideration.
What I forgot to do was read our public comment script. So every time when we do this, we have a thing. So our board has adopted policy 1400P, meeting conduct, order of business, and quorum. This policy and procedure are available at the school district website. By adopting this policy, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and business-like manner. Not that you weren't this means that whether we are at school, directors, district staff, students, members of the community, or some other guests, we must all follow the same standard of civility during school board meetings. Generally, the first item of business at a regular school board meeting is public comment, which is something we value. This is an opportunity for visitors to be recognized and make brief comments. We have a sign-in sheet for those who wish to speak. This allows us to call you forward. Members of the public who are attending remotely online would like to speak, please enter your name.
It's a webinar.
Sorry, it's a webinar. So total public comment is going to be 30 minutes and each speaker gets 3 minutes. No individual may speak more than once per meeting, even if there's time remaining. Public comment period is an opportunity for the board to listen to individuals on educational issues, and board members are encouraged to listen attentively. However, public comment period is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public. The board will not respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during public comment, and there will be no back and forth dialogue. Please know that the board's silence is neutral, is neither a signal of agreement nor disagreement with the speaker's remarks. Although the board will not engage in dialogue, the board chair may ask a speaker a clarifying question. It is also possible that school district staff will contact a speaker at a later time to follow up on an issue raised during public comment. Finally, please remember that your words have impact on you, not the school district, are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers that it is possible that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effects of your remarks, you should seek independent counsel, legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what a respectful, inclusive community looks like. So read that for everything. So thank you, Megan. Sorry. Gretchen, where? Or do you want me to make your dad go?
No, that's okay. Okay. My name is Gretchen Ware. As a current student at the Deer Park High School and a former athlete, I feel that the WIAA policy on allowing trans females to participate in female sports is wrong because us as females have fought for so long to be able to have our own sports for only females, and that males will always have a greater advantage in sports. It is proven that males are more athletic than a female, and that's why we have separate sports for both genders. I would like you to join with other districts to help change the WIAA policy.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. You're up.
Hi, my name is James Ware. I'm also here on behalf of the WIAA transgender issue. As a father of a female student, I also disagree with the policy that's been put forth. I don't think that it should be in place. And I think, as my wife said, that we are a generally conservative area. And although that shouldn't determine it, I think you as a board should stand up and say that this is wrong and it needs to be changed. And I also, Gretchen did a good job too about speaking as a female athlete too, that it's men are biologically different, obviously, than women. And we pledge one nation under God. God made us male and female, not interchangeable. And I think we need to stick with that.
So, Samantha Shively?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just here my name's Samantha Shively. I'm just here to kind of support the similar issues brought up. I haven't read through this whole thing, but I know that the way that our state is going and the way that we've talked about this before, the last meeting I came to was about transgender bathroom policies. It is obvious that biological men have clear advantages in sports. And it is disgusting to me, honestly, that certain political parties and beliefs will claim feminism and claim that they are trying to protect women, but yet they're putting biological males into our females' locker rooms and sports where they clearly have advantages. And so it's just, I hope that Deer Park School District will take some initiative on this. We obviously live in a very conservative area, and if they have not done this so far, as Megan has brought up, it's frustrating to me to know that we're not at the forefront. Like our school district isn't number one on the list. So to protect women and to protect girls' sports, we need to be at the forefront of this issue and push back. And I know that it's easy to sit back here and not be on a school board and say all of the things that you should be doing. And not have the ramifications of that. But there's been so many years of different things. For instance, the transgender bathroom policy. I was just given very dismissive, neutral comments about, well, we've never had this issue happen before. You're going to have the issues happen. And the way that our state is going, clear policies need to be made in place. People need to be standing up to the state and not be afraid of the ramifications of the state. So I would love to see Deer Park be at the forefront of this transgender issue. I think it is very pressing. It is very immediate. It is something that is definitely going to affect our small town. And we cannot use excuses of, well, we just haven't had that happen before, or we haven't had that issue arise. But the problem is that the issues will arise and the policies need to be in place to enforce it when they do. So.
Thank you. Michelle Engelson?
Yeah.
Did I get that one right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I am here for the same reason. I actually came back May to my first board meeting. It was very interesting. I was actually like, this is really cool. I like this. But and then I did meet with our athletic director, and a very matter-of-fact way was told they're doing nothing about it because they don't need to yet. And I said, but you know that we're going to be moving up and be playing against a school that has a transgender student. So are you and your coaches speaking about this? How is Deer Park going to take a stance? And just kind of came to him with my questions. And I know him very well from my daughter being in volleyball. And I was basically just told that there's not enough people to support it. It's not going to be worth your effort. I wasn't really given very good direction, so I'm very frustrated with that. And then this summer lost my brother, and so I just kind of lost focus. And then I saw Meade School District post. Then I have another friend up in Colville that actually got on the board so that because her daughter lost against the Valley student at state, and she's making a lot of headway in Colville. And I just felt like there's enough momentum and there's enough people speaking out, especially with the college volleyball team. They actually did forfeit again. They just canceled it. So I feel like there's enough voices that we should get on board. And I feel like as a school district, we need to be protecting our girls. And that doesn't mean that we say things that are going to exclude people. They can have their own individual area or what have you, but my girl needs to be number one. And I'll always do that. And I do believe it takes a village to raise these kids. And if this village can't stand up for them, it's really frustrating. And so I'm hoping, I'm living here for 20 something years. I have 4 kids. This will be my baby that I'm standing up for. She's in 5th grade and I want her to play with her club surf girls in high school. They already talk about it. Can you wait? If it keeps going, she won't be here. I'll go to a Christian school so she can play. It's nothing about religion or anything. It's just about safety. And that's what I'm here for. And I'm hoping that, like everyone said, Megan did a great job and did all her homework. And I just want us to be a part of it. And I wish back in May, I would have had more support and not told to just look the other way, because obviously it's right here. It's not going anywhere.
Thank you. Dee Dog.
Okay. So hi, I'm Deidre. So I do talk about the WIA later, but I have 4 different topics I'll go over real quick. So first off, I'd like to ask the board why it takes over a month for meeting minutes and video recording to be posted. As you say, you want the public to be informed, yet it takes so long for this information to be posted. I did check this morning, nothing's been updated. Not like it matters though, as the minutes do not touch on the items discussed during the meeting and need to be improvised, especially for working families. Use Riverside as an example if you need one. This is the biggest problem that voters and public are having with the school board, is transparency. You want a bond approved for our youth, yet you are not being 100% honest and forthcoming with all that it entails. And by having your minutes take this long, it makes the public question what else the board is hiding. Speaking of bond, that will most likely not pass, we may just be a stepping stone for you, Alexa, and the board, half of you won't be here in 10 years. Yet my son will have graduated and have a kid in this district before that bond is paid off. That is way too long, and saying these new houses will pay for it does not work. If they're elderly, which the geographic in the last few years has changed, leading to this means they can be exempt from the bond taxes. Next, little guys football playing on the football field. I know this was brought up last meeting. However, again, you want a bond approved, yet you can't find a way or even be helpful in getting that field for our future youth of tomorrow to use it. When every other school district has figured out how to make it happen because they know the importance of knowing taxpayers being able to use school grounds for their youth. Also, just as a FYI, we were not allowed to start using the fields once Alexa became superintendent. Also, why is the Deer Park School District the only school locally not giving us an answer on how to protect our children that choose to be normal? You're discriminating against 80% of our youth for choosing to not change their gender or giving us options. Yet when asked all we get is it hasn't happened yet. Why should we choose this district that isn't protecting our youth when we have neighboring school districts that will not discriminate against our 80% of youth choosing normalcy? Finally, all of you are elected officials on this board. It needs to be stopped that you let people stand up here and ridicule one board member and say nothing. You five are all a team and need to act like a team. If not, you all have secrets, so don't let it come out in one.
Thank you. Okay, with that, did I miss anybody? Thank you. All right, superintendent's report. Solomon, please.
We are going to actually start with Lori and Steve here at Arcadia, just because then they can be free to go before we do the board's business. So wanted to introduce Lori and Steve's still here.
He's here.
First of all, thank you for the tour. That was great. And just want to acknowledge the work that Lori and Steve have done over the last couple of years, specifically around academics. They have been laser focused on looking at data, making sure that students are getting exactly what they need at the level, with a strong emphasis on ELA and math. You guys have heard that for the past several years. And so this time they're really going to take a shift and kind of enlighten us in terms of what you're doing around the second goal, student well-being, and making sure that students are just taken care of and they feel a sense of belonging here at Arcadia. So Thanks so much for your hard work.
Thank you. And what Alexa said is true. We come every year. We're proud of our intervention program. We are proud of our scores academically. We feel like we're meeting kids where they are and pushing them forward to make growth. And rarely do we talk about this whole other side, but this is a huge side of what we do at school. As you all know, and you've touched on it tonight, if kids do not feel safe and welcome, they're not going to learn. We know that. There's got to be something that brings them to school, whether that's a relationship with a positive adult, whether that's a sport, a band program, like what are all those other things that we're doing to make sure that kids want to come to school. And it's important to our leadership team. And so we're going to highlight a little bit of that tonight. So the first one on here, we're going to talk a little bit about Move This World. That's a program that we do school-wide in every classroom every morning. And we're going to talk a little bit about bullying. It's October is National Bullying Prevention Month. So I wanted to share what we're doing specifically at Arcadia for that. PBIS is Positive Behavior Interventions and Support. Steve runs our PBIS team and our PBIS program and does a great job. So he's going to speak to that. And I say we are a trauma-informed school and we're trauma-invested. And what that means is kids can come here that come from broken homes or a broken night or a hard night or a hard weekend and feel like they belong here. And we're going to wrap around them and we're going to be informed, but we're going to support those kiddos. So this is a lot of Arcadia. So Move This World is, I'm going to show a really quick video of a classroom doing this. It's 7 to 10 minutes. That's it. It is a program. They're little videos and kids do them every morning at the end of breakfast. So we do breakfast in the classrooms, and then the second breakfast is kind of winding up, Steve gets on the intercom and does his morning announcements. And then once he's done with announcements, they do Move This World, and then we start academics right at 9 o'clock. So it's a tight morning, but we fit it in and we feel good about it. They're all social skill activities, and it's tailored to the grade level. So we have a specific video and curriculum for 3rd grade, 4th, and 5th. So I'm just going to show you a quick video of what this kind of looks like. This is a 4th grade classroom.
Hi, I'm Elliot. And I'm Samantha. Today we're going to do some drawing together to help us practice responding respectfully to each other's perspectives. Start by getting pencil and paper. Go.
I have one person in on the grass and back to the grade. I'll buy it.
We're all going to make drawings to answer the question.
They're quick lessons, so sometimes the teachers have to buy it and get everybody ready.
I think I'm going to go ahead and start looking at how to get your paper.
You'll see my screen, which is one thing that makes you happy today.
The question is, what is one thing that makes you happy?
Don't worry too much about what you draw. Just draw the first thing that comes to mind. Ready? Draw your answer to the question now.
We can't see it very well, but he's got like his buddies at the bottom of the page and they're playing out at recess. And then his partner has a big picture of her cat.
You're going to move to the desk of the person next to you and add on to their drawing. So is Samantha drew a pig.
Okay, so I'm going to stop. What they do is they pass the pictures around for about 2 minutes, and the kids have to add something that is respectful, that adds to the picture that was already started. They can't put like a frown face on the cat, and she can't cross off his friends that are playing on the field. So it's all about respecting each other's ideas of what is making them happy. And then teachers can take these little lessons and add on to them through the day if they would like. But we make sure we get 7 to 10 minutes of this in every day. So any questions about Move This World? It's a quick little activity. All right. Oops.
Hi, I'm Elliot.
And hi, Samantha. How can I stop that? All right. Classroom lessons. So for the month of October, our school counselor, Amy Bachman, is going to every single classroom and doing bullying prevention lessons. So she does other lessons throughout the year. I'm going to show you part of the bullying lesson, but she also does lessons on conflict resolution, respect, empathy, accepting responsibility, making responsible choices, and circle of control, which is recognizing what we can and cannot control. So she does lessons. She does a ton, as you guys know, those of you that know Amy, she works really hard and we're lucky to have her, but I do feel like this is a big month and it's October. It's a good time to teach to bullying and to help kids understand the difference between reporting and tattling and when is it something that's important that needs to be reported. So I'm just going to show you a couple minutes of her lessons.
It's hard, isn't it, guys? It is mean behavior that is harmful or hurtful on the inside or outside. And it happens over and over and over again, even after the person has been asked to stop. How is that different? How is that different? Oliver? William is different from being because bullying happens over and over, and then it's not going to happen over and over.
Beautiful. Can you read with me? Are we warmed up now?
Yeah, yes.
Is it mean?
when someone says or does something that is intentionally, which means on purpose. It's intentionally hurtful, but they stop after being told that you don't like it. That is, you're on fire. That is, me. So the difference isn't that it's on purpose, it's still on purpose. It's still hurtful or harmful. But it's okay? That's me. We see mean a lot. Yeah. If you're being honest, like if I'm being honest, I'll say I can be mean. I'm not proud about it, Oliver. But there's this thing. I'm human. Are you human? Y'all human? No. That's right.
Okay, honestly, it's fun to watch the whole thing. I came in and filmed her. She goes on to talk about the difference between not just mean behavior and bullying behavior, but what is rude behavior, and then what to do if you are being bullied and how you report it. I'm gonna give ourselves a shout out, Steve and I. We honestly take this so seriously. And it doesn't matter who's reporting to us. It doesn't matter which kids are involved. If something is reported that a child feels is bullying, we're going to investigate. That day, that we drop everything and we make sure all kids are interviewed and we get to the bottom of it. And so I'm going to give us a shout out. It's super important to both of us. Amy's in on this too with us. She's part of our office team. And we keep data, we keep notes, we follow through. So, they're learning about the difference because kids can be mean, but when the mean behavior doesn't stop, that's bullying. And we take it really seriously. So these are her lessons, and then she follows up with classrooms, and super fun to kind of watch the whole thing and see the whole lesson. For those of you that don't get to sit in a fourth grade classroom all the time. So great.
Guys, it is mean behavior.
Okay, let me see if I can get off that. All right, PBIS, Steve, you're up.
All right, so PBIS is just a fancy word for teaching the expectations so kids know what to do. I'm not sure why we got to call it PBIS. Probably so some education company can box it up and try to sell it to someone or other districts, but all PBIS means is, it kind of felt like when I was a kid, you just kind of knew how to act or the rules. And if you didn't, maybe you got kind of zung and it was like, oh, I didn't know, especially when I moved from school to school. So what we do here is we teach the expectations first. That very first week of school, we'll have our third graders go in the major areas that we know that are unstructured or have problems: cafeteria, playground, even stuff like hallways, bathrooms. This is what we do here. This is the expectation, so that kids know kind of what to expect when they're at school here at Arcadia. The biggest kind of umbrella of those expectations: be responsible, be respectful, be safe and kind. Pretty basic expectations in the world. We've got posters, we've got t-shirts with that on them, but we also do some things to reinforce the good parts of being respectful, responsible, safe and kind. We use golden tickets. It's amazing what the culture you can change with just this paper ticket. Every week we have drawings on Friday morning during announcements. Kids get golden tickets when we catch them being kind, responsible, safe, or respectful. So whether that's playground, walking through the hall, you hear a nice comment in the cafeteria, all the adults in the building have these golden tickets, and then we do a drawing for 4 kids per grade level on Friday. If it's been an exceptionally good week, maybe we bump it up to 5 or 6, and the kids that get drawn come down. We make a huge deal out of it. They can, pick a pencil or fancy eraser or fidget spinner, something like that. We do shout outs, which we've got a little bit of a video coming up where basically anytime during the week, teachers have these pieces of paper where you can shout someone out. Like, you know, this goes to Lindsay for being extra kind. You know, she helped me on the field when I fell over and felt really embarrassed, and she helped me back up. We'll read those out. We'll read about 4 or 5 per
Kids write them to other kids.
Yep.
So it's super cute. They
On
give you a
Wednesdays. Yep. And they'll shout out teachers sometimes, the lunch ladies sometimes. It's really cute. And even though we only read about 4 or 5 of them, anyone who has written a shout out, we make sure it gets back to that classroom to the kids so they can still feel like, all right, someone noticed what I did here. We also do Golden Broom for the cleanest classroom. We make those announcements on Wednesday. We've got a little video of kids on that. There's nothing else tied to it. It is a spray painted golden broom. Kids go crazy for winning that. It's awesome, actually. And then we have...
It's school pride.
I think it could be. It needs a little touch-up paint after you use it, but if we really got in a jam, we could use it.
More paint.
Yeah.
Just like, is it for rent? Because I could use it in my house.
Oh, that's it.
And then we need to put a custodian there so they could pick where's the cleanest room.
And Miss Norma did, besides just spray painted gold, put a nice little gold bow on it and try to shoot
And
it up a
the
little
teachers
bit.
hang them outside in the hall for the week, and it's just pride.
As you're walking back, you'll see a little sign. We track it and move a little marker on this board out kind of by the new library. So kids walk by, it's like, boom, that's our class.
Wow.
We got it this week. And then every couple months, we'll do awards where teachers, you know, will pick a couple kids from the classroom that really exemplify respectful, responsible, safe, or kind. Our next kindness assembly is, I think, the week after Veterans Day.
Yeah, right. So we have a couple of videos. I'm just going to show one.
The first one is just me doing a shout out. We don't need to see that. You can kind of hear it on this video.
It's a little blurry, but you can hear what the kids are, what Steve's saying over the intercom.
Back when I forgot it was on. Thanks for helping to make Arcadia Grade School some 80 third grader in this morning class. All right, teacher shout out. This shout out goes to Mrs. Muller. She tells us it's okay to fall behind, but it sure can come and being a bump on the log. Thank you for helping to make Arcadia Grade School some 80 third grader in Mrs. Muller's class. All right, we've got some fun to do. You know the drill. If you got it and you hear someone else's teacher call in a different class, you send a representative with the go through to the next class.
It's the fourth grade class. They don't know that we videotaped or
And fourth grade, this is Mackenzie. This is the rescue club. Congratulations, Mackenzie.
We do the pledge as a whole school every morning.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
I think it's especially cute watching that again, that even when it wasn't their grade level, a bunch of them clapped for it.
Yeah. It's pretty.
Class.
Oh, sorry.
This shout out goes to Harper, a third grader in Mrs. Moore's class.
Same
For going above and beyond school rules by being extra kind.
Sorry.
Love all this extra kindness during kindness month. Harper helped you get a backpack. This shout out goes to Harper, a third grader in Mrs. Moore's class.
Oh my gosh, sorry, Steve.
That's all right. Okay. Other things we do for PBIS is, besides just teaching the kids the expectations from viewing them as a class, we've got posters around the building. You might have seen some on the tour, like hallway, and it says in kid-friendly language what we expect. What does it look like to be respectful and safe and responsible in the hall? Bathrooms right outside the door, playground rules. We have all those things posted so kids see them passively, or if they are curious, can reference and try and be like, oh, that's what we do. Picture on the right is just some of the part of the packet we give teachers, not only in those stations at the beginning of the year, but if a class needs to review, like, what does the Arcadia expectations look like in the cafeteria, or, you know, wherever it is, if they're struggling a little bit, teachers have that information where they can review it. And it's the same for every teacher around the building. So if it's not like, oh my gosh, Mrs. Moore is so strict, but you can do whatever you want on the playground if, you know, Miss Burke's out there. So that's kind of the nice thing too. It's just, it creates consistency and that level of expectation that doesn't change third to fifth grade. Behavior data. So Lori mentioned this a little bit at the beginning too. We also, besides academics, we also look at our discipline referral data. And at one point it was, I think years ago, teachers used to say, you're getting a referral. Well, what does that mean? For us, it's more, there's a discipline piece or some sort of corrective action to fix the behavior or make it right with other kids. But referrals we use for keeping track of the data. So what it does is we can figure out, maybe we see a spike outside on the playground of physical behavior. Instead of just saying, man, I think it's a little rough on the playground this month, we've actually got the data to say, hey, this is something we need to get the team together and figure out. You know, we've got way too much hands-on out there. What are we going to do about it? In contrast, you've got, for example, this is just from the end of September meeting, and just a sample of some of the data we have. But 2023, we had a lot of, I think our football team's going to be really good in about 5 or 6 years. So we had a lot of kiddos kind of getting into it, wrestling, hands-on. And this year, one of the teachers said, man, it feels like this is a rougher class than last year. It's like, well, looking at the data, they're not. So it's almost like keeps us in check too of, if you have a bad day, it's like, you know what, things are going
out of proportion.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's something we do every month. And it just helps us.
He shares this too. He shares it he keeps the data, and once a month the committee looks at it, and then those members of those committee go back to their grade levels to share it with all teachers. So everyone's seeing this on a monthly basis.
Yeah. And if we have a problem, we work to try to fix it.
Yeah.
Do you share that data upward? So
We
say,
don't.
to the middle school or whatever. Steve and I were talking a little bit before, you know, maybe you have a rough and tumble bunch of kids this year, and they're sixth graders.
Yeah.
Moving that to the next year's school, just so that if there's a trend, we could see that and it would help the next level.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up. I could do a better job of that at the end of the year, but some of these things, and this is more, you know, just in passing, but I've checked in with some of the people I used to teach with down at the middle school. By the way, Jack, please give him my best.
He's doing much better now.
He was doing great in my class. I really like Jack. But
we do meet with them at the end of every school year. We meet with David Bentler and Tim and you and Amy,
that way.
And we put charts and graphs together of kids to watch out for and how to help them, and things that worked and things that didn't work. Like, okay, this kiddo's coming, this will work, this is what we tried.
We haven't given them this data specifically.
But not this data specifically.
The other thing you notice is, you know, a couple of years ago, we had a class, I was like, ooh, you know, you've got some really smart kids in there, but they are an ornery bunch. And because the schedule is different, you know, they've got the 30-minute period lunch time, but no other real recess in the middle school. that cut down on a lot of those problems. And the changing of classes seemed to help too, where they weren't, some of those kids weren't stuck in the same class the whole day. So it's short answer, yeah, we could share this and we will. And think about that. But year to year, or, you know, the difference of here versus the middle school, there are some things that change within the structure that we've seen help other students, where it's like, it's great to see that kid doing well. What was it about here that maybe was tough? Having more recesses, you know, more opportunity, just being stuck in the same class, except for specialists. And then trauma-informed practices, I will pass back to Lily.
Yeah, so this is our last slide. We'll be done, but we're proud of this work as well. And we've made a commitment as a staff to do daily greetings. And what that means is every kid that walks in the building every single day is greeted by name, by their teacher. So most of them stand at the door, and as they come in, you're saying, "Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Johnny." And it's just, that's important to us, that every child is seen, and we are glad they're there, regardless of what yesterday looked like. It could have been a horrible day, but today you're back, and we're glad you're here. So we've made that commitment. We have a commitment to calming corners and break spots in every classroom, to give kids a chance to cool down, calm down, get back on track. Rather than taking 20 minutes to go to the office and come back, they can kind of turn themselves around in class. And each teacher has a class meeting, a weekly class meeting, to kind of do a temperature check on the kids, see how everyone's doing, what's going well in their class, what's not, what could be improved upon. We are part of a 3-year grant through CLEAR. CLEAR is a collaborative learning for educational achievement and resilience.
It's a grant through Washington.
Yeah, a grant through WSU. We're on the 3rd year of that grant. What that grant brings us is once a week, we have a gal that comes in, Anna Rowe, and does bounce back groups. Bounce back groups are for kids that need a little push to bounce back, to get back on track. So kids that are struggling. We have a mental health counselor. Last year, at the end of the year, our mental health counselor was serving 14 students one-on-one. This year, we've started off with 5. Her current caseload's 5, but it will grow throughout the school year. I'm going to really, not me personally, but I'm going to be sad when we lose that. I don't have a plan to replace that counselor. I mean, we have our school counselor and we have a YFA counselor. This is on top of that. So our kids are really getting supported. And their parents are getting supported. The counselor zooms in with parents and zooms in with the kids. So it's awesome. And this will be our last year of that. And we have professional development that's provided through that grant. So that's kind of our trauma-informed practices. We just keep it going. When these 3 years end, we'll try to figure that out in the spring about what we're going to do to keep that focus going, moving forward.
Is that grant not being renewed? State?
They'll take another school.
Okay.
The same school can't get the grant. Yeah. So, but it's been invaluable. It's been awesome. So
There's some tough stories out there.
Yeah. Tough kiddos, and we want them here in school, and that counseling happens here at school too. It's zoomed in. So Amy Bachman, our school counselor, walks them down to one of our little offices, gets the computer set up, gets the counselor on, gets the kiddo on Zoom, and leaves. So they have this one-on-one counseling, and then she'll counsel with the families in the evening. So it's awesome. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I understand that immediate trauma is easy to spot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle trauma for children who have been adopted through foster care and the prenatal and early childhood traumas that might not be evident immediately?
Yeah, that is a great question, and it does. And we also see those signs. So we do a lot of training around RAD. We help our teachers. That's where that professional development comes in. We've had guest speakers. We've had Kristen Sowers, who's a national author on student trauma and ongoing trauma, sustained trauma that hasn't stopped, not just a fire in a house, but that ongoing trauma. So what is really, really great is you learn how their brain develops, and teachers learn how their brain develops and how they come to school and how they present themselves in a classroom. And teachers are given tools to help with those kiddos. And it could be little things like walking away from them, giving them a moment, teach them how to take a deep breath. And all of that is good for all kids, actually. But really that brain development piece and the pieces of the RAD are super important. And our teachers have received all that training. It's ebbed and flowed over the years. And my first 3 years here, we did a lot of bringing people in. And then we got this grant. So it's kind of like, what's next? What's next for us? How do we keep it going? Because you never know it all. You don't have all the answers, but it's important work. Yeah, thank you for asking. Any other questions? Steve and I could talk about this stuff a lot, but we know you have an agenda. So we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your hard work.
I just want to say thank you from all of us. So we're all here for one reason, that's for kids. Otherwise, folks wouldn't be in the audience trying to protect their kids or bring things forward. We wouldn't be up here doing what we do. And you guys are the trenches. I mean, you're a little bit about the trenches. But thank you so much. And please get that to your staff that you are why we do what we do. The kids are good. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I have a couple of items. I'm going to start with the easy ones, and then we'll get into some of the other agenda items, some of which were part of the public comments too tonight. You have a first read for some policies. Last year, about a year ago, we started reviewing policies. We started with the 1000 series, which was the board. We went through the board policies, updated the 1000 series, which is board policies. So went to 2000s and did a comparison with the WASDA policies with our current policies. The ones that were recommended to updates were policy 2022. Last time DPSDs was updated was in 2012. And so this one and this new policy includes a component on internet safety and then adds additional cross references with other policies. So that's those. I'm giving you a bullet point of the different policies that we're recommending for first read. Policy 2125 is called sexual health education. DPSDs was updated in 2007. I will work on updating the accompanying procedure, which is from 2010. There are some laws, more current laws that need to be updated and reflected to reflect OSPI's language. It clarifies that there is no sexual health education in K-3. It's exactly the social emotional learning, how to learn to be a student, how to learn to be kind. There's no sexual. I just want to make sure that that's public information that's clarified in the policy, that there is no K-3 sexual health education. It also cites the new RCWs that are associated with that. Policy 2140 used to be called back in 2000 when it was last updated, is the comprehensive school. Used to be called guidance counseling. So the new name is called Comprehensive School Counseling Program. Updates include a title change, updated language to reflect the expectations of counseling staff. So over time, counselors' roles, responsibilities have shifted. It recognizes the tiered services to meet the needs of students. Counselors, I don't know if you know this, Suzanne talked about it a couple of years ago, to refresh your memory, that 80% of their time needs to be on direct or indirect supports for students. And then 20% of their time can be on program planning and activities, but that's shifted. So their time needs to be focused on students.
On that topic, are we talking about that as a board later? Or are you just giving us the summary now? Because I had comments on that topic.
Sure. We can.
We'll go as we go through each one of them.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, the policies are opportunities for the board to weigh in and to make suggested changes. It also added the new non-discrimination statement. It adds the purpose that the school counselor assists in students in acquiring the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to become an effective student, responsible citizens, productive workers, and lifelong learners. So it adds the purpose of the policy. Policy 2336, required observances. The last time DPSD updated that policy was in 2014. The update is to reflect that social studies must offer voter registration day to seniors. And so that's a reflection of the change in the law. Also 4220, which is complaints. We had a recommendation from Stevens Clay that we open up that policy and we look at that policy and just give administrators the discretion for how to handle and resolve complaints that come through.
Just for everybody in the audience, Alexis, we have policies that govern the school board and how we do business and the schools. And it's our job to make sure that those are current, but the book is about that thick. So we're trying to eke our way through them. But by the time we get, some are mandated by the state to change and some are not. By the time we get through these ones, a lot of the other ones need to be changed again. And it's just a never ending cycle. So
it's kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, right? So once you finish it, then you restart again. The next one is just an update that I shared with you at the last board meeting and through weekly update that I'd be providing you an update with where we're at with the facilities. So I made a copy for each of you of the current policy, current procedure, and then the work that we've done as a facilities advisory group. So I just want to make sure they're all the same. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget anybody. So everybody has one, right? Okay. So even though the facilities policy has not been updated since 2013, it's still relevant. I have Rebecca. Rebecca needs one. And so basically it just says that it subscribes to the belief that public schools are owned and operated for and by the community. I think that's important to note, and that's in the top sentence. It also looks at school facilities as they've been divided into 3 categories. District-sponsored activities retain first priority in use of facilities. Authorization of school facilities will not be considered as endorsement or approval of any activity group or organization. So that's the policy. Then the next thing that we're looking at is the procedure. And as you know, we started this conversation last spring. And so last spring, when we were migrating to the online master library process, I think what becomes evident is if you don't have sound practices and procedures along the way, then it's a little like opening Pandora's box and we all have to sit down together and make sure that we're looking at our practices and making sure that we're all on the same page. I think that one thing that became evident to me as we started talking about these conversations last spring, because I made the assumption coming in that we had a sound process and everything was a well-oiled machine until we went into the online process and it was a little like opening Pandora's box, right? So what's interesting is that facilities use impacts the whole entire system, from facilities and maintenance to custodial, to our maintenance staff, to our facilities staff, to all of our secretaries, all of our building administrators, and the middle school AD and the high school AD. So when I called, and the theater. So when we sat around the table to talk about, okay, here is the policy, here's the procedure, what's our practice? Out of that whole entire table sitting there, 2 people were here 3 years ago. So when we're looking at change and change process, we actually had to start from ground zero and say, okay, what does that look like? And a couple of pieces became very evident. Communication and lack thereof, the website. So from the user standpoint, consistency, right? So we know that we have work to do, but we all needed to make sure that we were on the same page in terms of the internal processes and the internal workings and together. So I started with the vision statement, and the vision statement really comes from the policy. So the use of school district facilities, public schools are owned and operated for and by the community. It's the district's goal and intent to allow the community to use district facilities when they are not in use for district-sponsored activities. All efforts will be made to allow the community to use district school facilities, while also prioritizing the school and district program needs. And then I started with the potential vision statement that I shared with folks, just to make sure that we're all on the same page around facilities use. Our district is committed to providing equitable access to school facilities for both our educational programs and the community. We strive to maintain a transparent, efficient, and balanced facility use process that honors the needs of our students, protects district resources, and fosters strong community partnerships. Through clear communication, collaboration, and careful management of our spaces, we aim to ensure that all users feel respected, valued, and supported in their use of district facilities. So from there, we started to talk about what are the parameters. One, and some of these are outlined in the policies and procedures. One, school and district activities take priority. At any time, whether it be weather related or game rescheduled or whatever the need is, an outside group needs to know, we need to be transparent that at any point in time they can be bumped. This is one of the things that the building administrators felt strongly about, is that the building will prioritize use based on student attendance of children involved in the activity. So for example, here tonight, we've got a basketball team. They're Arcadia students. So that would be a priority for hosting here at Arcadia. We would look at our own students as a priority and their own grade level. Requesters, this is law, right? And for insurance, requesters must provide proof of insurance and liability. Per policy, a custodian or other authorized staff member must be on the premises. Facilities use, this was also important to the group when we met, that facilities use is based on a fair and equitable process. It's not necessarily first come, first serve. So just because it's the first person to submit an application doesn't mean that they're the ones that automatically get the space. The district has acknowledged that there are increased and competing requests and interest with the growth of Deer Park. We now have 90 kids at the middle school level turning out for volleyball. Last year we had 80, so now we have to run 9 teams versus 8 teams, which means another coach and more space, right? So the other thing that we wanted to make sure was established for a fair and equitable process was creating windows, right? And middle school is the one that is used across all of the schools because they have so many teams. And so we've worked with the AD at the middle school to really figure out when those windows are. That's on the back page. And so how can we time the facilities use release piece with when we know when the middle school sports are going to happen so that we can ensure the facilities are available. So outside groups requesting facilities use, here's the process. They check with the building first to make sure that the building itself is available. So you check with, usually it's the school secretary, right? Is the school even available? So they know that priority is given to student, youth, nonprofits, and Deer Park community groups. If the facility is available, then the requester will then connect with the maintenance and facilities department to ensure the necessary paperwork is completed. And so all outside groups would need proof of liability insurance prior to using district facilities. And Jennifer Todd is our person. Once the space is booked, the facilities department then notifies that group that their facility has been booked, and then users will be billed following the use. So that was the next piece around the conversation, was around what does that, I think I gave you guys a copy. What does that look like? Well, we've always had a facilities use and a fee structure. And what I said is that it needs to be the very, very minimum. And it needs to be the very minimum, which is personnel fees. Now, so you'll see the structure. The other piece that we did is we folded in the theater use fees with that, but keeping in mind that the labor that's required, whether it be maintenance of facilities, custodial staff, food services, IT, it all comes at overtime, right? So that's all time and a half. So when we're factoring in the cost of that custodian, it's all at overtime. We had a facilities use, I think, on Saturday by one of our booster groups at the high school, which was great, but it required 3 cooks and a full day custodian. Well, that's $1,200+, and that's only personnel fees. So people just need to keep in mind that that's all we're asking for. We're going to cross out there's some lights fee or something like that. We're going to cross that out. We don't need to charge people to use the lights, right? We're trying to keep it as a very bare minimum. Keeping in mind that district is going to incur some costs. During winter sports, we will plow, because just as much as that group doesn't want to be held liable, we don't want to be held liable either. We're paying thousands of dollars, right, from the district's end to pay for that. Cleanup, let's say after Friday night's game, where's our grounds and maintenance crew? They're spending like a full day. We only have 2, by the way. They're spending a full day cleaning up in the stands. So then they can't get to the rest of their work. So it's every inch is a give somewhere, right? We're a small enough district. We don't have a lot of people doing a lot of the work. So Anyway, so I just wanted to highlight some of those pieces that the facilities use as a systems process. It's not isolated to one person or one department. It involves a lot of people in the whole system. So therefore, it takes a little bit of time. It's not like I have a complaint about Arcadia, so I can go straight to Lori, right? It's like it's a systems piece, and I needed to get this established as a group with all of us. And it involves about 15 people, and that wasn't even including secretaries as a part of that conversation. Obviously, most of the complexities that center around athletics, specifically middle school athletics. We knew back in spring we had some fine-grained aspects and details that needed to be worked out. So spent a lot of time with people making sure that this was where we wanted to go in the direction we wanted to head. So obviously communication is critical. So I wanted you guys to have a chance to see this. If you want to weigh in, provide some feedback, that's fine. But I want to put this on the website so it's transparent with the fee schedule, with the process. Here's who I am. I'm requesting this facility. What's my process for me, and making it really just transparent. Okay.
Are the custodian charges current?
Yeah. 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 Because, with the increased wages, increased costing. There.
I think we also need to put on here, like for certain things, like I'll use a theater as an example. It's you're not just using the stage. You get there, you got a microphone, you got to have all that other stuff. And all that stuff is really expensive stuff. And we can't just turn folks loose in there. So I think we should pick some certain spots like the theater, maybe. It'd be like, if you're in a gym, it's one thing, but if you're on a football field and now we have all these fancy lights, and scared me to death when I was here, I think last year when the lights went out and then they came immediately back on, because the old lights used to take like 15 minutes to come back on. And then they started doing all sorts of stuff. Those are the things that are, if they break, it takes somebody smarter than me to run all that stuff. And there has to be some certain things that require a little more.
So anything that's going to be press box related or theater use related is all Ted, right? That's all of his equipment. Now that we have a new press box, we have a lot of new and expensive electronics in the press box. So we're going to be pretty, we're going to look at that very carefully, right? That's going to have to be monitored. We can't just let people loose in there. When I talked to Ted, the kids use all of those things in the theater and the press box for actual class on Monday. So that has to be working and it has to be ready to go every Monday morning for kids. And so we can't just let people loose in the theater or the press box to use all of those pieces. So to be determined, we're working through that.
Alexa.
Yep.
Just one more, I guess, kind of perspective in this conversation. So I work as a custodian at Mount Spokane High School for the Meade School District. In fact, that's where I came from, where I'm going after this meeting. But we recently had a trade show hosted at Mount Spokane High School. They came in, they had to use the gym, they had to use multiple things that they were paying for. And they laid down this tarp in the gym using this packing tape to secure it down. And so after the whole thing was over, the tarp came up, but the residue and stuff stuck around and nobody stuck around to clean it up. Plus just some of the minimal damage and stuff that's caused. And I get it, you go to a facility and the most important thing is to put on a good trade show, right? You want to host that well. And oftentimes what gets overlooked is pride and ownership in that school. Whereas, so when you have community members coming in to use it, I've found there's a lot less pride and ownership of the building, of the facility, than if it were, for example, the basketball teams or volleyball teams that play on that court. They're taking pride and ownership of it. But the result of that was extra work for us as custodians to get that up. And we had to be very careful in how we got that up. And there were certain areas in the end line that now kind of have a permanent mark running through it, like worn down from the finish that was on. So if you ever go to a game, you'll see it on one of the end lines. There's like a long kind of strip faded, but that's just one piece of consideration just as we're discussing this. But I mean, all aspects are important, but that's one aspect that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah. When the folks that came into the last school board meeting talked about the accessibility, One of the things that I heard quite a bit from a number of the parents and the coaches was they need a point of contact. And I know I asked you about that. I think it's imperative that we have one person, whoever you select, as the go-to person, even if they're not an expert.
Yeah.
That's sort of a focal point that I went to the website, I have a question.
Done.
Okay.
Jen Todd.
I was just going to say, she did, between the last meeting and this meeting, the district has done a great job. I applaud all of you staff working hard on this because as Janai can attest to, the football team, we've been guaranteed 4 games next year.
I was going for one home game and they came out of the meeting with 4. I'm like, what happened?
We're tickled.
Amazing.
And, and we get to use the facility for our banquet this year. Basketball hoop, I'm involved in the Hoop Town, and Morgan is amazing. She made a spreadsheet, sent it to all us coaches. We picked our times. It's a Google sheet so we can just log in. And now I can see like, oh, I want open gym time for my team. What's open? Because we can see it. So we've made a lot of progress in those 2 weeks. So thank you, Alexa.
Yep.
I applaud you and Cam and the rest of the team.
It was a whole team effort.
I don't need packing tape.
It's the L-side groups that do like art fairs and those kinds of things because they're trying to protect the floors, right, with the tarp. So it's a positive intent. But
Right. And
I
it
thought
doesn't matter. It's been that way. I don't know if anybody else has ever coached, but you cannot. It forever has been hard to just nail down those times, and it's just because the moving target all the time.
well, and middle school has a lot shorter of an athletics period, and they've got a lot more kids. I mean, the high school's got the wrestling space and the auxiliary gym, all those things. But I just want to say that sometimes things can be settled with just a good old fashioned meeting. Because when I talked to Cam, he said, I've reached out to Pop Warner since I became AD. And he said, for whatever reason, prior to me, there was some miscommunication, some asks that were unattainable. But they sat down and they talked about when their schedules were, what their games were. They don't need it for 8 games on Saturday. It's 2 games. Oh, well, that's really manageable. Oh, and by the way, our season starts mostly in August before our kids. Wow, that's awesome because we can get the fields ready to go for our team. Like it just needed to be a good old fashioned sit down meeting. And that's where a lot of that's where I think we jump a little bit fast, but it could have just been a meeting where they were able to hash it out. And Steve Howard was there because I know people are talking about potentially some bleachers or something at the middle school. Well, Steve has to be there because there's codes and restrictions and rules and permits that have to be done. So it feels like red tape, but if you get the right people to sit down at the right time and open up that conversation, we can fix it. So I feel really good about where we're at in the process. I wanted to make sure you saw this before it gets launched on the website because we're ready to go. We're not ready for the online application yet. So we still have very antiquated forms that are going to be filled out, but that's going to be at least the process will be clear and people will know what they're getting into.
Thank you.
So just a thought, sorry, but the company I work for, we do trade shows as well. A lot of the venues that we rent, we are given very specific, like you cannot use packing tape. You have to use gaffer's tape. So there are industry standard things, especially for trade shows. Like if you're going to set up those indoor umbrellas for your 10 by 10 space, you have to have a carpet sample underneath the legs to protect the floor. So you could also look at doing something like that, just like rules of use. Like if you're on the hardwood gym floor, these are our rules of use.
If you wouldn't mind sharing them with me, maybe we can pass them on and not reinvent the wheel.
It's been years since I've seen them. I've just spent many hours rolling around with gappers.
Yeah.
You know how to get it. See if I can find it.
I'm just saying, like, we have one Steve, one Alexa, one Ted, and so one Cam, and they have Cam's job as athletic director to do his own sports, right? He's not a facilities use guy, but he has to make sure his own sports fit in there. But somehow he got put in charge of it, but that wasn't really part of his job duties and responsibilities. So we cleaned that all up. Okay, so the next one, hot topic for this evening. We've been in the discussion and I've shared with you what some of the other districts are doing. So what you heard tonight is not all new information. However, we're sitting in kind of a peculiar position because we've got the non-discrimination laws as outlined by the state of Washington and OSPI's rules. We've also got this interesting Title IX piece, but Title IX has shifted over time because it's federal and it's kind of waned into the Washington state non-discrimination law. And so when we're looking at the sports specifically, we're just kind of at a peculiar place and time. So before the board decides or has this discussion as to where they'd like to go next, I just want to make sure I clarify what's out there, what's been happening, and provide you with an update. So it was brought tonight. First of all, there are two pieces. There's board resolutions that have been passed. There are also amendments by two different school districts that have gone forward to WIAA. So I don't want to conflate those. I want to keep them separate to make sure that you know the difference between the two of them. So what is a board resolution? The board resolution is a legally binding document that formalizes a decision made by the board, right? So when we talk about the resolution versus the WIAA proposed amendments, I just want to make sure that I clarify the purpose of each of them, steps and options, and then make sure that we're clear on what's within our sphere of influence, right? And just remind the board that the board itself, same as WIAA, also is a nonprofit entity, does not have authority to change the law, right? We are a public school entity, and so we need to be really cautious with how we take on legal challenges, right? And we want to be presented with that. Eastside Washington superintendents, myself included, met with Executive Director Mick Hoffman about a month ago. And this is where we learned about and solidified not only the amendments process, but the two proposals that are out there. I think Megan shared some of them this evening. I also have them. The Eastmont School District and then the Linden School District proposed two amendments to WIAA. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what those are, but I'm also going to share with you the WIAA amendments process, because this falls within that bigger, broader process. It's like a mini legislative session, so to speak. So Linden's really talks about, it's identified the girls' sports and the girls' divisions. So girls' sports, including fast pitch, volleyball, when no boys or co-ed division exists, girls' divisions within a sport, soccer, wrestling, basketball, track and field. So they identify what girls' sports are. Then they say that there's an appeal process for eligibility in girls sports and girls divisions. So what they're saying is the possibility of an appeals process for a student athlete assigned male at birth to participate in girls sports requires further exploration and should be developed with input from key stakeholders, including medical professionals, school leaders, and student athletes. The goal of any appeal process or exception is to balance inclusivity with the protection of competitive fairness in girls' sports. So that was Linden's. Eastmont's was about creating an open division. Okay, so if differing from their assigned sex shall compete in the open division. So it talks about making a third division. So you've got the boys versus boys, the girls versus girls, and transgender versus transgender, or transgender versus non-binary. So they outline that. And that is what Eastmont states. The difference between, and then they talk about science and medical experts and know that assigned sex is a key determination of athletic performance. They talk about in reference to legal and human rights experts. And again, they're seeking to open a third division. So what that brings me to right now is all amendments, regardless of what the recommended amendment is due to WIAA mid-October. So in this case, it was around October 11th or the 13th. So going from there, right now, where these are going in the process is to legal. These have to pass the legal sniff test before they go anywhere. If it
WIAA.
Yes. Yeah, well, through the state of Washington to make sure it's in compliance legally with the non-discrimination laws, right?
Yep.
If in fact it passes that, then how the voting process works is every school gets a vote. So we're a part of the GSL now, right? There's 6 in our league, and so every school gets one vote. Then the league takes the consensus of the vote, and then it goes into a bigger, broader system, right? But before that happens, it goes, sorry, I missed a step. This goes to legal, then it goes back to the WIAA executive board. Our group is, our representatives are from GPrep and Inchelium, okay? If it passes the WIAA exec board, which is the whole entire state, right, has reps for review, then it comes and we go through the voting process. We get one vote for our schools because we're one school. It goes into our league, and then they take that consensus vote, and then it goes from there. But this is sort of any amendments process. I just wanted to make sure you knew what that process was and what that looks like. It is totally like a little legislative session. So that's where these two are at right now. Okay. When we are talking about, I also wanted to remind you that WIAA is also a nonprofit organization. So they sit a lot like you guys. They are not governing law. They don't get to change laws. They don't influence laws. They don't get to change laws. They have to follow the law just like we all do, right? If we want rules and laws changed, we go to Olympia and we advocate, and that's why we do that. And that's what we are hopeful our community does with and alongside us. And so we're not doing this alone, but we're advocating for our community's wishes, wants, and desires to our legislators. I know our legislators also want us going to Olympia, and it is super easy to testify. And I'm sharing with all of you who chose to stick around, WIA or Olympia. When those bills are being passed, they're very, very easy to get on and to testify and have a community voice. It can't just be the work of the board or the work of myself. It has to be the work of the community as a whole, because many voices are a lot more powerful than one, right? We all signed an oath that we will follow the law. And if we don't, as we learned through previous experience, they hold insurance over our head, right? We are also individually, personally held liable if we willfully disobey the law. So we're sitting in a weird spot right now. Okay. So when we go to making a decision as to what our next steps are going to be, I will share with you that I do have copies of, so first of all, Orondo School District actually wrote a letter to WASDA, Board of Directors.
Who did that?
Orondo. I have a copy of the resolution, which is very similar to Meade's, which I also have. But I will also share with you that Meade got a letter today from OSPI. So all the schools, I'm assuming, would have gotten the same. And I'm not saying this to dissuade you either direction. I just want you to know of what we will receive, right? The end of it is it cites all the laws, it cites the rules. It just says that given this, OSPI is strongly cautioning the district from any action that may be seen as implementing, enforcing, or otherwise giving effect to this resolution, or that otherwise limits a student's access and opportunities to participate in athletic activities in a manner that is consistent with their gender identity, as it may be in violation with state non-discrimination law rules and guidelines. Should the district take any action, OSPI may take steps to impose sanctions or appropriate corrective action as outlined in the RCWs and WACs. And like I said, I'm just sharing this with you as information to help you make an informed decision for where you want to go and what you want to do next. I just want you to be very thoughtful as you're making this decision. If you decide to go with the resolution, be clear about what your goal is, be clear about what your purpose is, and what is it that you hope to achieve and accomplish. The board resolutions outside of saying, hey, community, like we care about this, isn't going to change the law, right? Yep. And so, well, if that's the direction you choose to go as a group, great, right? We'll go that path, but just know we're going to be getting the same piece. And if we disobey the law, we'll have those sanctions or what comes of that later.
But that too. Yeah. So, I mean, you talked about how legislative is really the level, that's the target. That's where we want to focus on the law, so focusing on that, especially as the legislative sessions are coming up. One thing I mentioned the last meeting is that we participated in setting forth priorities that WASDA, which is essentially our representative, is going to take to the legislative floor, which they have a seat at the table. They're the loudest voice and the best voice, the most unified voice of all the school districts who can fight for the policies that are important to us on that floor. But so we recently all worked together. We looked at the long priority list that we thought was important to us and to use a word used earlier, constituents of the Deer Park area. And a couple of those policies deal with local control. So, I mean, when we talk about this issue, this specific issue, there's a lot of issues that I think citizens are upset about that are outside of our control, that Olympia can just set forth through legislation and law, and that we essentially have to find a workaround or establish policy that works for us but still upholds the law so that we don't get fined and lose our schools, right? So So I just want to share with you that that's something that we have done. We've established that we're really fighting ultimately for local control, because that would cover more issues than just this one issue, but multiple issues. So that is one thing that we're working. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, WASDA is going to be approving it tomorrow at our board meeting, but unfortunately, local control did not make the top 5. And I was trying to pull up real quick what the 5 were. But that's not one of them. And neither is this issue, just so that you're understanding it. I remember MSOX being on it.
Special ed and
Special ed and
those are the big three.
Those, that's their top.
But I think this gives us a chance. Yes, first of all, I'd ask that you share what you have with us, and we can add it to the agenda at our next workshop so that everybody has a chance to look at it and talk about it and think about it before we do anything. But the way I read the Mead and the other one is they're not saying let's break the law. And I think that we owe our girls, my girls, you, whatever, a chance to do that. And if we can support one of those 2 resolutions that's going to WIAA, I think that might be the way we look at things. I'm just throwing this out there, but I would like to have it added at the next agenda. Yeah.
I will send these to you. I didn't get call bills. I don't have call bills. What I will share is I have some ideas also, right? So the board resolution doesn't really go anywhere. It stays right here with our community. It's a statement to the community, right?
Exactly.
Great, but it's not going to change anything. So
but this one would go to WIAA.
We can. So
in support of
Orondo actually has one that went to WASDA. It's a formal letter. It's not the resolutions. If you read them, they're hard to read. Right, they're very legalese. Whereas. So my recommendation would be: do we write a letter to WIAA? Right, like I'm trying to think about things ahead that are actually going to have a bigger impact than just right here in Deer Park. 2, do we create and write letters to our legislators? 3, does our community begin? How do you change a law? It begins from a community petition and by getting signatures. Am I right?
Yes.
Right. So we need to do this as a whole community. I guess my point is it probably needs and belongs bigger than a board resolution.
Right. And there are other avenues as well, right? So they put in a law and it may be unconstitutional, right? So if the other folks' rights are being violated by the law, you can contest it. Now, I know that we're doing some of that with some of the energy. They were saying that this is unachievable. We can't. So they were trying to do. So we got to take that avenue as well. Whoever is doing championing this for all the schools. Also, in terms of like the one discussion we had where we had males being allowed to maybe go into the female bathroom. So and we don't allow that. Well, here's the thing. If a female is in that bathroom, and let's say she's naked and she's changing, and a male comes into that room, that's an assault. So we have laws on the books now that we can press that if a male came into that room, he's got right. The law says he's protected to go in that bathroom, right? But he also broke the law and then violating an assault on a female. So I think
I'd have to look up the legal definition of assault. I don't know.
Right. There's assault and battery, right? But him coming in and her screaming, that's an assault on her privacy. Right. And so we ought to be trying to use those laws to protect our children because they're on the books. So I think those are the other avenues we ought to be using, saying, sure, he's going to go in there, but he's going to get an assault charge.
And I heard multiple times people say that it's not happened here. We haven't done it. Has happened here, folks. I mean, we've had these children coming through our district for a long time. We have worked with their families. The individual schools have worked with the parents, the kid, the whatever, to make sure that those kids are protected as well as the rest of the children are protected. So it is not something that we take lightly. It's not something we've pushed under the rug. This is something that has been working. I mean, it ain't new. It's really old. There have been the administration, the schools, Lori and Steve have worked tirelessly to protect all the kids out there. So it's not something that's new. It's something that we should feel strongly about, and I agree. and this might be the right time to jump on board, but also it is not new. It's out there. It has been out there for a long time. And our administration and teachers do an amazing job of protecting what we're here for, the kids. So
the other avenues we should look at is the other, the Olympics are having this problem, right? We've seen that. And so they're addressing it. I think the college, NC, yeah, exactly. They're taking it. So I think we need to leverage the things that they're using to be successful, and then we can follow suit. And so if we got folks working this at the national level and they're being successful, then we can follow their footsteps.
Well, here's a short paragraph from the spokesman article about BEAD. It says lawmakers from 25 states have proposed restricting transgender participation in athletics in recent years, first passed in Idaho in 2020. This law and others are facing legal challenges. A federal appeals court prevented the Idaho law from going into effect with an outstanding injunction. Idaho Attorney General in July petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to review the injunction. So on the national level, multiple states, it's going through the legal process. So I think once a precedent is set at the Supreme Court, that will trickle down to the rest of the states. So, I mean, but the wheels are already in motion, but I do agree with Eric. We need to address that here and now, at least with whatever we can do. Yeah. And
Can I say anything or not?
Sure. Okay.
I just the biggest thing I think when considering if we do the resolution would be just the girls and the parents of the girls feeling that our district would be behind us by, let's say, for instance, the example of the girls coming together and as a team and saying, we're choosing to not play against
I see what you're
this
saying.
Not us as parents, not the coach, not the athletic director, not Alexa. These girls are saying, I am not going to allow this to happen. And that this district is saying, you can do that. And I think that's what the resolution would do myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So anyhow, if you could bring that, send those.
I will send these to
all
you.
that stuff out. I'm prepared
Review.
to talk at the next meeting. This is not something that's going to happen this time or whatever. If you look at I think it's section 6 in the WIAA guidance document there, this is the way to get them to look at changing their rule. So this is the process. If we can support something along one of these things, that's great. And if not, it's a good way to start the process and support everybody somehow. So
If a petition was to go to legislation, not for anything in here, would it be looked bad upon for a parent to set up a booth at sporting events to ask for signatures? Is that something allowed? And how do I talk to someone about that?
I would have to ask legal about that because I know that there's strict rules around using school district property for.
So it'd have to be outside of the school.
Potentially.
The other thing that we're going to have a really good opportunity this next time is we're going to have 2 brand new legislators, representatives that are coming out. So no longer do we have Jacqueline or Joel. We're getting 2 brand new folks over there. We are going to probably go over there sometime in January as a board to do some lobbying, meet with them, try and get some stuff. But this is the time. Invite them to your community groups. They're trying to shake hands and kiss babies right now to make sure things are going. Whoever wins.
Churches, they come to it all.
So if this is something that's important to all of us or to you or whatever, now's your chance, really big time chance for those folks. Like I said, we're going to do that. We have with Miss Shelley Short in there. She calls Alexa. She used to call Travis to ask questions about things that are important, anything education related. So we have those relationships built. Alexa does an awesome job of doing that, as well as we still bend Travis's knuckles to make him work a little bit for us. He owes us. But yeah, those are things that we have those opportunities to change things, and now's a good time.
Yeah, we would need guidance a little bit, and that's just conversations that we can sit and have, not at a board meeting too. But
Yep.
that's kind of what I wanted in May,
Yep.
a little bit more guidance, and I just wasn't given any. So now I would like more guidance, so I'll be reaching out.
It might take a little, I might have to do a little research too on what that looks
And
like.
I am too right now.
But I'm just trying to think about, like, WIAA sits in the same place as you, right? They're a board. They have to follow the law. So if the law isn't being followed, then these are not going to even go through to the amendments any further to the amendments voting process, right? They'll stop.
And
So they depend on the law changing also in order to be able to support all the districts writing into them as well.
Yep. And the way the state athletics thing is set up is every year, every district in the state, basically we sign a memo or something that says we're going with you. And that's a mandated thing that comes out from the state that says they're our representative. They organize all the leagues, they do everything. So it's not, you could choose to go independent, but then you don't have their insurance, you don't have any of the protections that come with that large envelope for our kids. So it's not just this, it's not just what we feel, whatever. There's like Alexa says, like an onion, right? Start peeling, usually it's a bad onion, start peeling things apart.
Well, and it's a slow process because as many of you probably know, we can't meet outside of board meetings more than 2 of us at a time, or else it constitutes a meeting, and then you have to have a
notice.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So as much as we'd love to get together, just, over burgers and stuff and just talk through this stuff and come to resolutions, our time is limited to where we can actually have those conversations. So just, I thought that was important to that.
But we will bring it to a meeting, so.
Yeah, and Jerry, you had asked about the policies. Is there a specific one that you have a question about that we can look at? I don't want to forget your question.
I had comments on a couple of them.
So we'll get to that.
Okay, that is, I think, all I have. Not a lot on the goals, but on ancillary things.
Perfect. All right. Does everybody have a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I would ask for a motion, please.
Move to approve.
All right. It's been moved to approve. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Okay. So I'll just go down the list. On the minutes of the previous meeting, I disapprove of the September 23rd and the October 14th minutes. On payroll, September payroll and August, I looked at that. That's fine. Human resources report, I looked at that. That's fine. The surplus items, I approve of the garage trying to sell the surplus vehicles that are beyond. I looked at the donations that we had from Deer Park Football, Deer Park Ladies Golf, Picket Fence, 509 Wellness. They provided significant funds. Do we write letters to these folks?
We can. This was specifically for Deer Park High School. Each of these groups bought a grade level band of t-shirts for the kids for Spirit Week.
Some of these, $17.50 from Wellness, $17.50 from Picket Fence, $387 from the club, $12.96 from the Deer Park Football Club. These are significant amounts.
So all those kids, most of that stuff, the football booster club and the ladies golf club, those are specific things to spend for there. The other 2 were for the Picket Fence and the wellness one were for teachers at homecoming.
Yes.
And they have already been thanked. So
have they? Okay.
Yeah, not from us, but from the people who are the beneficiaries of the thing.
Well, since we're, yeah. Okay. I just didn't know when we have these guys.
Golf club got a thank you. The ladies golf player people got a thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We all thank yous, and I don't know the outcome of these. On the DECA, I had some questions, and I actually did a little bit more work on it. I approved of the 2 trips. It looks like a lot of the funds that they use for their trip is money that they put in ASB. But I did have questions on the CTE. Is that the CTE fund from the state? Is that where
For
those
which
funds?
piece? It,
Well,
yes,
it's about CTE.
yes, it's a lot, from building funds to CTE funds to children's out of pocket to,
Okay.
yeah.
So I got more
It
questions.
usually is not just one revenue source, it's a variety. Right?
Okay. So,
CTE dollars would come from the CTE funds at the high school.
okay.
Correct.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
what
and there are very
when I saw
specific strings attached to CTE dollars, just
So-
FYI. Anytime you get dollars from somewhere else, there's a lot of strings attached.
Well, I have a note to myself. I want a little bit more education on how those dollars, because I only knew of the ASB. And so when I saw the CTE, I was like, okay, so there's that another avenue.
DECA, Skills USA,
FFA.
Biomed, FFA for the in-class, yeah.
Okay. Now, I also, and go ahead, you say something?
Yeah, I was going to say all those, the CTE monies are applied for. And that's a total separate fund at the high school that goes just to that place.
Okay.
And I think they have a CTE advisory group. Yeah,
Okay.
that helps
Is that the same
figure out
one
how
that
those
meets every half year? Okay.
They don't approve like this, but they
Right,
approve the big budget and the money goes to the kids and the kids decide how to spend.
Yeah, and they look at what's going well. They look at data, what can be improved, how do we grow our programs? It's like an advisory committee.
I noticed that, I don't have anything against Mr. Kernan on the trips, but he was both on the, if I remember correctly, on the Deer Park FFA trip to nationals. He was also on, I think, the chaperone. But in terms of fairness, there are other CTE advisors at the high school. Is there any, is that opportunity open to the other CTE advisors who may want to go as a chaperone? So it's kind of shared. I just saw, when I kept seeing it, I said, you know, I'm putting myself in the school and saying, is there a fairness where is this opportunity open to the other? So,
you know what, I will ask.
We have a CTE director at the high school, so I would assume, and there's only 4 or 5 teachers there.
Right.
He might be the only male.
Right, exactly.
So that, he probably gets to go on a lot of things.
He might be not wanting to go and he has to go because he's the only guy, but
I will ask Troy.
I would hope we could spread that if that's possible. And then on the personal leave policy, that looked fine. So overall, I'm in favor of most of them except for the minutes. Also, the financials that Brendan did, I did have some questions. It looked like the money that we spent on hardware for the vaping, it was just at the high school and at the middle school. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the cost to install it way exceeded the cost of the materials.
That's accurate. That's part of our camera conundrum.
Okay, that's
exactly right.
Well, when I looked at the numbers.
That's our conundrum. And that's part of why our own folks can do our camera installation and it'll save us a lot of money. Right?
Right.
But it's going to be a little bit more time because we only have 3 maintenance guys.
Did we bid that out?
We did not, because our goal is to do it internally. But right now,
we bid out the contract to put those sensors.
No,
we did not.
No.
Okay.
Actually, that may or may not be true. There were only 2. I would have to ask Ross. There's only 2 vendors. It would be Triton and there's one other one. And we did a lot of comparing, contrasting. We did a lot of interviews from neighboring districts and which ones they liked. We also had to look at our camera infrastructure. Like there's never a simple answer to a simple question. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's like not as easy as picking a vape group. It's like we did a lot of research. We had to get the quotes and the bids. We had to look at our current infrastructure, how it was going to work. Do we want to go to cloud? Do we want to use our current system? Our current system's at bandwidth. Oh, but by the way, we're looking at a new system. Like, so it's a lot of thought that goes behind a very simple question.
Yes, but I was just a little bit taken back that I thought we were, in a way, we were taken advantage of.
That's the labor market.
Okay.
That's why Steve does a fantastic job of using our own guys and our own expertise a lot to get a lot of jobs done here.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
That concludes my part of the discussion.
All right. Any brothers, Craig? Lindsay?
No.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. Board discussion, chance for board discussion. So does anybody have anything they would like to bring up for the good of the order that we haven't talked about? All right.
Are you on
board discussion?
Got it.
Yep. I would like us to, Alexa provided us all these books, how to not to be a terrible school board member. It's a great book.
Well, we had 2 books. Just to be clear, that one looks like the easiest to read.
Yeah, it's actually pretty entertaining.
The other one's called Board Governance, just so everybody knows. It just doesn't look as, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the other one called? Yeah, that one looked really interesting. This one's got pictures. No, but I would like to put this on the agenda for our December meeting. Maybe everybody could read the first 3 or 4 chapters or the whole book. If you,
Eric, I'm feeling attacked right now.
It's a lot of homework, Eric.
I'm just asking.
Do they have it on Audible?
This is how he goes to sleep at night.
Yeah, this is, actually, look at it. It's even.
You actually read it. Look at it. It's all
I haven't highlighted it yet.
Good enough.
But I would like to bring this up for December. We have 1 meeting in December. It's a good chance. It's usually not a lot going on at that point in time. And if it is, we can cancel it. But if everybody could please, we can discuss it at the next meeting, November meeting, but keep that in mind. I would like to start the process. That's okay with everybody? Anything else? All right.
Policies for first read.
Yep, we have, consideration of action items. So policies for the first read, Alexa went over some of them, or all of them actually. Electronic resources and internet safety, sexual health and education, which is different from sexual education. Please don't, we already beat that guy down.
Nothing's changing. It's just
Nothing's
updating the policy.
Yeah. Comprehensive school counseling, required observances in place. Jerry, you said you had some questions about one?
Well, I went through each one of them. So I've got some high level and over. This is the first read, so we're going to come back to the board. So I want a couple of things to just throw out for discussion for my colleagues. So the one thing I've always had concern about, and I had a conversation with Travis once, and we were talking about the use of Google Docs, right? Our school uses Google. That's a cloud platform. And when I was in the Air Force.
Are you on 2022? I'm taking notes, so I just want to make sure I'm.
Yes, I'm on 2022.
Okay, thank you.
This was the first one that popped up, and it's on the first year list there. Yep. So, and I had done Air Force work, and then when I retired, I was doing this kind of work with the cloud, and that concern I have with the cloud is eventually at some point it's going to be compromised, right? And when I was teaching a CAD class and they were asking me to use the Google version of 3D CAD, and I said, I'm not going to have my kids on a platform that's in the cloud where my kids are putting in personal information that even when you're telling them not to, they put it in there, that cloud gets compromised, then that information about the child, where they live and personal information is then hacked. So I want to talk about a little bit more that maybe we ought to look at that is because Travis, when I asked him, his answer was it's low risk. And so, and when I was thinking of kids, I'm like, there should be no risk. So I guess there's some level of risk, but I think there's going to be a future time when Google can say, we're going to start charging you, or they're going to be hacked. And so I worry about the future when it comes to something's free now.
I don't think it is free. We pay for Google Docs.
I don't know. I know we pay for Microsoft.
What do you recommend?
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to talk about it.
Well, we have to remember, as a board, it is our job to provide governance, not to provide answers directly like that. So we can say, we can say, Alexa, when it comes up, please ask whoever's deciding who we use Google Docs or whatever to, evaluate it. We cannot say it's not, unless something happens and we want to do it, but it's also, huge infrastructure change, and along with all that would come costs.
Right,
So
not trying to flip the switch.
Okay.
I'm just concerned about the future. This is a policy. We as the board oversee it. And we're talking about that very topic.
Okay.
Sexual health, I didn't have any content. I read a sentence, I read it like 4 times. It didn't make any sense to me. It's like saying, don't, like a double negative. So I'll come back to it when we talk together. You brought up the
Can I,
yes.
because I had a problem with the sexual one.
Was that the abstinence will not be taught?
So I would like to rewrite it.
Yeah.
I put it in Chat GPT just to help because I was confused by that same sentence.
Okay.
And so I've tweaked it a little bit, but it should read something like this. That'd be more familiar for our community, I think. Abstinence will not be the only topic covered. Students will also learn about birth control and ways to prevent diseases, or you can say contraceptives, but just something that's more community friendly language.
Okay.
It was my recommendation.
I like that better because I read that 3 times and
I did too.
It tripped me up. I've been like, what are we saying? So, okay, that wasn't the only one. On the comprehensive school counseling program, you brought up the 80% of the contractual time, direct and indirect supports. My question is, how do we measure that?
They have to input into a log. Suzanne talked about a couple of, I don't remember what year, she came and she was talking to you guys about how the counselors actually have to track their hours and they have to input it.
Okay.
That's how we're tracking.
Okay.
Counselors report.
Okay. All right. I didn't get that impression that it was part of the policy.
It's not the policy because that's the how.
That's okay.
The policy is the counselors will spend their time this way. The district says, here's the procedure. They will track it because the law tells us we have to.
Okay.
But we get to choose the how.
So the procedures that cover this say that.
They will when we update it. But I want to do policy first and then we'll do the accompanying procedure.
Okay.
But that's a good question.
And then the complaints. In the last paragraph, it talks about stuff that comes to the board. I think we need a feedback loop so that when it went to the school, teacher, principal, superintendent, and then they came to the board. And so if it went through that route, it came to the board and then we kick it back to you. I think there's a feedback.
If it comes to the board, it should have already gone to the teacher, principal, and to me before it gets to you.
But we got folks who are coming to the board who said they've already seen you. And so to me, at that point, then it's in the hands of the board. So that last paragraph, I think, needs some refinement in terms of it's gone through the process. It came to the board. Now, what does the board do?
But
Saying it gets it back to you, but you've already seen.
So I guess what I would share with you in that specific incident that you're referring to, that's actually signified under a different policy. It's the HIB policy and procedure.
Okay.
And that's a 25-page long procedure. So I don't think we want to mess with that procedure.
There's a difference between appeals and complaints, right?
Yes.
Those are 2 different categories.
And some things we are not, we are not privileged to know what happened with those particular children.
Sure, that's fine. But I think there's a feedback loop that's missing in this last paragraph. And that's my first input.
The recommendation that came from Stevens Clay, these are just general complaints. So we're not looking at the discrimination. We're not looking at sexual harassment. We're not looking at HIB. We're not looking at a myriad of other complaints that are already outlined. This is a complaint in general. Right. So I'm trying to think of this, and I don't always know about them too, because if they're solved at the teacher level, I won't even know.
And then
right.
Fine. Right.
But if they're processed under a different policy, we're going to have to follow that policy.
And their recommendation
is to keep it open.
To keep it open, not be more specific.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's some room for improvement based on what's happened.
What would be helpful is if you give me for the next meeting, kind of like, here's my recommendation. That would be most helpful. So then we can put that in there. You guys can look at it as a board and then go from there. I will also run it through legal. Because the other thing we don't want to do is inadvertently write a policy that is not in alignment with the law.
That's it.
Cool. Lindsay, do you have anything?
Nope, that was my only one, was sexual health.
Great. Nope, good stuff. Cool. Thank you for you guys looking at all those and reading them through. So I need a motion, please, for policies for first read, which means we are bringing them back to the board to go over them again, proposed for second read, but we will make changes or different things along those lines. So motion.
Move to approve first read.
Okay, it's moved to approve. Any further discussion? All right, thank you. Motion passes, sorry. With that, we are in adjournment. Thank you all for sticking around and.
Yeah, thank you.
And for bringing in significant others and children. Oh, okay.